Greetings. We have the conclusion of the book of Numbers. Fascinating story to read about is the story of Balak, Balaam, the blessing of Israel. It's a story with three parts to it. The first is how Balak's messengers seek to convince Balaam to go with them. But Balaam's encounter with God, in his encounter with God, he's told not to go, and so he obeys God. Now in the second encounter, we see God now telling Balaam to abide by the request of the messengers and to go to Balak. So he's like, sure, I'll go. Yet in this third encounter, we see that God doesn't want Balaam to proceed. There's an angel from God that's blocking the road, and only the donkey can see the angel. So as their journey continues, the donkey continues trying to prevent them from proceeding in their journey to the point where he lies down in the road, and there's just no getting around this angel. So the donkey speaks to Balaam and asks, why? What have I done to you that you've struck me 3 times? And at this point, the Lord opens the eyes of Balaam, and he can see the angel, and he pleads for forgiveness, and is permitted to go on his way. But in going to Balak, he's to speak only of what God's commanded him to speak. Now, in this story, in the cycle of the story, Balak has made many attempts to get Balaam to curse Israel, but each attempt fails. Balaam ends up blessing Israel 3 different times, and Moab is the place that gets cursed by Balaam. This all speaks to hope for the people. Balaam marks the end of one generation and is pointing to the coming of a new generation of God's people. Now in chapter 25, we read about Israel's apostasy. There's 24,000 people that die who are presumably the last of the old generation. A new generation is ready for the promised land. So the hope and promise that Israel has in God endures. Reflecting on the book of Numbers as a whole, it's a book that contains a cycle of rebellion. There's punishment and forgiveness, and we're given a great illustration of Israel's infidelity here. We see these patterns a few times in the book. People complain, God becomes angry, the people cry out for help, Moses intercedes on the behalf of the people, God responds by giving relief from punishment. Those patterns can be found in chapters 11, 12, 17, and 21. As a whole, the book of Numbers gives us some variety when it comes to literary forms and themes. We read various stories, laws, there's plenty of lists, names, instructions for worship, and reports. Yet from beginning to end, we read about the culmination of one generation and their disobedience to the beginning of a new generation, eager to receive what God has promised to them. Those are some summaries and thoughts. Take care and God bless.